Good morning. Welcome to the Boston City Council. This is a committee on government operations. Today we are here on docket 1366, which is an ordinance providing the licensing of stores that sell certain knives. A violation of selling to a minor is 16-39.1. I do want to just quickly speak to this point. Of the opposition that I'm receiving in my office about undue regulation, most of it is pointing to this issue of 16-39.1, which says that the sale of knives to minors is punishable by a $300 fine. That is, in fact, how we first came to realize that they were selling knives to kids in our community. We used 16-39.1 to set up a police officer with a minor to go in to make a purchase, and it is time-consuming and difficult when, in fact, as this Wall Street Journal article says, how new deadly pocket knives became a $1 billion business.
Thank you very much for having us here.
Thank you.
Very important that we testify just to enlighten you as to the impact of knives on being carried by students. Students that was arrested within the last 10 days. 3 days before, he was arrested with a firearm, a loaded firearm. 3 days before, we took a knife off this student at Ashmont Station, convinced him to give up the knife. It took a few minutes, but he did give it up. Three or 4 days later, I think it was, I'm not really sure of it, but it was very in close proximity to when the knife was taken to him. He was arrested with a gun immediately after a shooting in the Ashmont Station area. I mean, that shows that people will say sometimes the steps to drugs are starting with marijuana and you progress to hardcore drugs. Well, that's never really been proven. I mean, that shows that people will say sometimes the steps to drugs are starting with marijuana and you progress to hardcore drugs. Well, that's never really been proven. But knives to more serious weapons is something that is apparent to police officers. But knives to more serious weapons is something that is apparent to police officers.
Do you, could you give us your opinion on this law, and could you also answer the question, do you believe that this law is overly onerous on the store owners who will be selling these knives?
It's not overly onerous, and there is no law that's too onerous. And there is no law that's too onerous. It has to come as a result of strict and stern legislation that prohibits the sale of these weapons. If I may show
Please.
you.
Yes, please.
I mean, you know, we have to be careful when they use them, but they're not knives that you use to carve wood with, as you can see. You know, and it just. And this particular knife is pretty regular. We just brought a sampling of what we have, but.
And none of these knives, or a majority of these knives, are not illegal under state statute. Is that correct?
I don't think any of them are illegal under state statute. When we do our afternoon stopwatches, we're getting less than we used to get. We're getting less than we used to get. We're getting less than we used to get because we have such a strong campaign and we have so many partners involved in our programs that will report to the police on scene that young man may be carrying a knife. The other fact is we won't go in anybody's pocket. The way we'll approach a student is the clip. It's a dead giveaway. But there's a lot of times when members of our programs that are monitoring these school breaks will look at someone's pocket and say, I'll bet you that's a knife. But we just don't have the legal authority to conduct pat frisk without a reasonable cause. And we don't want it to seem like it's a shakedown of young people. And we don't want it to seem like it's a shakedown of young people. And we don't want it to seem like it's a shakedown of young people.
Matters before the court system, but I'm sure you're aware of some of the civil litigation that may occur related to some of these homicides or stabbings. And I wonder if you're aware of any wrongful death litigation that has been filed against the store owner who sold a knife illegally to a minor, or perhaps further down the chain, possibly to the manufacturer who appears to be marketing these knives to this cohort.
Mr. Chairman, Councilor Jackson, my name is Todd Rathner. I represent Knife Rights, which is a grassroots knife owners and collectors organization. And I want to thank you for allowing me to testify here before you today. We greatly appreciate it. Knife Rights' primary concern is that the proposed ordinance would violate the Massachusetts Constitution. Under Amendment 89, Article 2, Section 6 of the Massachusetts Constitution, a municipality may only pass an ordinance which is not inconsistent with state law. Are you concerned with the constitutionality of the ordinance, that this ordinance would be inconsistent with Massachusetts general law?
No, I'm not. We're given latitude. We're given latitude. We're given latitude.
Why would there be exemptions for stores like Lowe's and Target? I think you mentioned Lowe's and Target by name before. And I wonder why specifically you would have them exempt?
The thought there is that these are stores that are specifically in the business of selling sharp equipment and certain types of tools and knives to the public. And that is not where we're experiencing problems, where minors are walking into Lowe's and buying these deadly weapons that are winding up on crime scenes across the city.
You had mentioned earlier how Target and Lowe's and other stores like that were not the source of these knives that are being used in crimes and not being picked up on kids, school kids. And I'm wondering how it is you know that. Were there stings against Lowe's and Target stores to try to determine that?
I made no such statement.
You said that they weren't the source of the knives.
I made no such statement. It is not where we're experiencing problems, where minors are walking into Lowe's and buying these deadly weapons.
You had mentioned earlier how Lowe's and other stores like that were not the source of these knives that are being used in crimes, and I'm wondering how it is you know that. Were there stings against Lowe's and Target stores to try to determine that?
I made no such statement.
You said that they weren't the source of the knives.
I made no such statement. It is not where we're experiencing problems, where minors are walking into Lowe's and buying these deadly weapons. I made no such statement.
Okay. Finally, I guess I'll conclude by saying that I've testified all over the country in numerous councils and legislatures on this issue, on tax issues, on other issues, that in many places, and I'm just struck that the only folks that are presiding over it are the two authors of the ordinance. But I thank you for allowing me to testify here today, and I appreciate it. Thank you.